Okay. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Todd, for your wonderful mistake talk, which was not a mistake. I was actually thinking about that because we have so many new people today, and I was thinking about how toddlers, they're always falling down, and they never say, I'm basically giving a synopsis of your struggle over. They never say, oh, my mommy won't like me, my daddy won't like me, oh, what a terrible thing I did, oh, I'm such a they just pick themselves up. So we all should be like toddlers. And I was thinking about that because we have all these new people. And I was thinking, like, you walk in and somebody slaps a robe on you, and then, there's all this bowing and there's this chanting, and I just came here to meditate. Like, what is this about, So I thought I'd address that before anybody asked that question, since it's sort of implicit in the air. And we have this idea about meditation in our particular culture, where it has been greatly secularized, where meditation is about me. It's about calming myself down. It's about becoming more focused. It's about, whatever. It's about me. And when you walk into any serious place of practice, and all of a sudden you have to act with other people. You have to pay attention to what other people are doing. It's very clearly not about you. So I could go on and talk about what the great things about chanting meditation and the great things about bowing meditation, and I could talk about that. But the main thing is you walk in there, and it's really obvious that it's not about you, that it's about everybody together. We're all together. We have to do things together. My teacher called that together action. So that's the main thing. That's why we do all of that stuff. That's why you don't come in here and just, sit, and then, get up, It's because we have to act together in this world, and this is a little rehearsal space, practice, right? I practice piano. Jane practices flute. So it's practice. Chickens don't have to practice. They know what they're doing. But, so it's practice, and it's practice for coming together in this world and acting correctly in this world. And correct doesn't mean your knife goes in the right place in the place setting. It means that you're helping this world. So we're acting together, and we have practice forms that force us to act together. So that's what that's about. That's why we do that. So I just wanted to say that. Now you don't have to ask that for a question. So are there any questions? Yes. Microphone?
So, Todd, you made a mistake around the perverted view and deluded view.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, what is correct view?
How many fingers?
There's just one.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so what this is actually about is the, what are they? The Eightfold Path, and the first one is correct view. And so in some forms of Buddhism, we're taught that correct view means really attaining non-existence of self, that the self is a construct, no self-nature. So in some forms of Buddhism, that's what correct view is. But Zen is, correct view is no view. That means no preconception. You don't have to see things through the filter of any idea, not even the idea of no self, not even the idea of you and this universe are one. Not even the idea of impermanence, not even the idea of emptiness. These are wonderful ideas, but you don't have to see the universe through them. So correct view means no view. Just in that moment, what do you see? What do you hear? That's correct view. So when I said, how many fingers? And you said one, that's correct view. You didn't have to ask if that's finger empty or not, Okay? Is it impermanent? you know? All right? Okay, so thank you for your question. Any other questions? Anybody online?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, I recently just heard this phrase, maybe you could say.
Excuse me,
Speak,
for the
speak loud.
recording, that the sound, I don't know if that other microphone is on.
Yeah, it's on. You
How do I use this thing? Is it new?
just put it close and speak loud.
This way or that way? Is it this one?
Talking with light.
On top of the way. Okay, so just this morning I heard this wonderful phrase says, we have to take this practice very seriously, but we should not take ourselves very seriously. Can you say something about that?
You just said it. Yeah. Yeah, so taking practice seriously, that means you actually do it. You don't just think about doing it. It doesn't mean that you say, oh, this is a very serious practice. No. Practice can be very light. It can be very heavy. It can be anything. But you don't have to cling to any idea of what practice is. But taking it seriously, that just means you actually do it. Just as if you know, with a friend or a lover or a husband or a wife or a child or a parent, how do you take them seriously? You show up. You're there for them. You don't ignore them for, 8 months or something like that. You're there for them. So you're there for practice. That's what taking practice seriously means, is you actually do it. And when you do it, you actually do it. When I was first starting to practice, it was a very, very long time ago, and I was a young single woman, and I had a blind date with this guy, and we were both professors of various kinds, and I was telling him, oh, I'm doing meditation at the Cambridge Zen Center, and it's so wonderful, and blah, 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 blah. And he said, oh, I went to a Quaker meeting house once, and they sat in silence, and I didn't see the point, so I was just writing my paper in my head, So if you're doing that, you're not practicing, even if your body is completely still, So taking practice seriously means you're actually doing it, and of course your mind wanders, but then you catch it when it wanders. You don't say, oh great, I'm going to write my paper in my head. So taking practice seriously means you do it. You do it regularly, and you actually do it when you're doing it. That's what taking practice seriously means. But yeah, how can you take yourself seriously? It's just a construct. This whole idea, Judy over here, Ting over here, Todd over here, Stan over there, these are just constructs. We're not separate. So yeah, don't take yourself seriously. Oh, I stubbed my toe, and it hurts so bad, right? Don't do that. Don't take yourself seriously. So that's what that means. So you already said it. Take your practice seriously. Don't take yourself seriously, okay? Don't let your idea of self get in the way of what you're doing. That's very important, okay?
And there is a sequel after
Wait a
that
minute.
Then he said,
Who is he?
this wonderful teacher,
Well, speak what?
studying from Malaysia,
Okay.
and he said, before I become a monk, I took myself too seriously. Then I become a monk, I took myself even more seriously. And some of the monks these days will say, remember his first time arrived, he's sort of a joke, like sort of a jerk,
Mm-hmm.
So can you say something about before you become a monastic, you take yourself too seriously. Then you become a monastic, you still take yourself even more seriously. Can you say something about?
No, because I was never a monastic. Okay? But yeah, we all take ourselves seriously. Too seriously. When we shouldn't, You get a degree, whether it's a high school degree or a college degree or a PhD or, law degree. You say, oh man, I've got this degree, you know? You get a kind of job, you say, oh man, I've got this high class job. Then it's taking yourself too seriously. So it's not just monks. We all do that all the time. Look at me. So just don't do that, okay?
So you become a monk, you will think you'll take yourself less seriously.
So that's your idea. Your idea is you become a monk and you take yourself less seriously. That's just your idea. Okay, monastics are human beings. They're just like all other human beings. People have this idea that people become monastics and then they're so peaceful. They'll walk into a temple and they say, oh, I can just feel the peace in this temple. If you know monastics, you know that they're just like everybody else. Oh, I don't like this person, and I don't like the way they, starch their clothes. They're very big on starching their uniforms, I don't like the way they starch their robes. They don't do it right, and I know how to starch my, people will find anything to puff themselves up and, put other people down. They'll do that all the time. There's always politics, There's this saying, and I can say this because I'm Jewish, 2 Jews, 3 synagogues. This is human beings. 2 Catholics, 3 cathedrals. 2 Buddhists, 5 kinds of Buddhism. This is just how people are. And just, the reason that somebody becomes a monastic is to dedicate themselves to practice and Sangha, but they don't put their human nature, they don't shed that. That's just somebody's idea. So yeah, be fully human. Acknowledge your full humanness, and turn it into humaneness. Okay? That's really important.
I have another question. There's a monk who has become a non-monk but still a teacher, said for his recent, visit to Poland, the Sangha, after they practice all day, they just say, let's go out and have a drink. And he was very uncomfortable about it. He's addressed that.
So that's his problem.
Right. I was just wondering, he was saying this is because people is looking up to go to a place of practice, is trying to become sober. It's a safe space. So I wonder if in United States and North America, what's our position?
We don't have a position in the Sangha. We don't have a position in the Sangha on anything. We have one position: wake up. Wake up and help this world. That makes 2 positions. No, there's no policy. There is a policy of not having alcohol within a Zen center. Just as there's a policy of not having meat within a Zen center. That's a policy. And the policy is to not, offend isn't quite the right word, but to not make people uncomfortable, especially like with alcohol. People who are in recovery, and you don't want to have that around to remind them. Similarly, no drugs, no marijuana, God knows no fentanyl, right? No speed. The point is to create a place where no one feels threatened by something that they personally don't want to partake in. So that's a rule. But what you do in your own life, that's up to you. That's not up to anybody else. How you deal with the precepts, that's your life. That's not anything that we tell you. Okay? I don't tell whether you wear leather shoes or not. We take a precept of not killing. Whether you eat meat or not. I eat fish, I don't eat meat. That's up to you. That's not up to us to tell you what to do. But wake up, help this world. Those 2 things are very important. Okay? That's the only rule. And I thought I saw someone online maybe with a question. Is there someone with a question online?
Well, I had a question.
I knew you did.
That was the person you thought, but sometimes when well, not sometimes, oftentimes when I read something, sometimes I think in the other lineage I was in, one of the problems was reading the material by, the Buddhist experts. If there are such a thing, but in my mind I thought there were. you know, and then not really being able to, or not questioning, not doing it. And I probably had the ability to, I just didn't. Of being able to read something and then say, well, I don't know about that, because I always had the idea that, well, they were the expert and I'm the practitioner, so this person with their credential and da 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 knows more about it than I do. So then I have to take that and believe it, which didn't work out very well for me. So then I was reading something in in the quantum school primary point, and I thought, well, I don't really believe that, and what it is doesn't really matter. But my question is then, how do we read the material? With what kind of mind do you read? Because do I get to pick and choose what I like and what I don't like? Well, what if I'm picking and choosing and it's because of my you know what I mean? Does that make sense? You're
Yeah,
smiling.
so you're overthinking it, but okay. So how do you read, with your eyes, or if it's an audiobook with your ears, or if you're doing Braille with your fingers? Okay, there we got that. But so, have you ever noticed that Buddhist teachers disagree with each other? Right? Okay? So yeah, so this is not a thing where there's like a party line that you have to agree with this party line. So all these words are pointing to a direction. They're pointing to a direction. And sometimes, you point this way and you point this way, and it looks like you're pointing in different directions, but you're pointing to the same thing right there. Okay? So there's this idea of behind meaning. In my teacher Zen Master Sung-san's Fractured English, behind meaning. And that's a really good way to think of it. So they're pointing to something, and they can be pointing to it from different directions. And if you take it literally, yeah, they'll disagree with each other. But what are they pointing to? So that's what you want. That's where your mind needs to go, is what are they pointing to? And you don't have to hold on to the literal meaning of anything. In fact, one of the wonderful things about Kongan practice, these little questions that you ask people, like, does a dog have Buddha nature? And they have to answer that. You have to answer it if you're asked. The wonderful thing about Kongan practice is the Kongan is this Zen master said or did something, and it's a great Zen master. It's like, Zhaozhu or Matsu. I mean, one of these great, great Zen masters. Huang Po, one of these great Zen masters from over 1,000 years ago. And you're supposed to do better. You're supposed to correct their mistake, right? So that's the way to approach it. It's not like you have to literally agree with something. It's like, what is it pointing to? And yes, sometimes you say, this just doesn't resonate with me. Instead of like picking and choosing, it's like it doesn't resonate with you. It's just like wearing clothes. Certain clothes fit you and certain clothes fit me, and probably not the same clothes or different sizes, right? So what resonates? What fits? That's the question. And yeah, you can say, this guy sounds like a jerk. That's no problem. Don't be attached to thinking they sound like a jerk, and don't be attached to what they say, and don't be attached to worrying about whether you should agree with them or not, and do you actually agree with them or not. Don't worry about anything. Just take it in. It's data. You just take it in, and then you'll do with it what you want. Okay? Yeah. I mean, you've heard Stan and I disagree with each other in Dharma talks, right? I'm impolite. He'll say something, and I'll say, but. And he says to me later, I'll say something, and later he'll say, I don't know about that. He's very polite in company, because he's from New Orleans and I'm from New York. But yeah, we're human beings. We disagree. Everyone only has a partial handle on whatever it is that truth truly is, okay? So thank you. Yeah. And I guess we're out of time. So announcements, I'll just announce that we have a one-day retreat 2 weeks from yesterday, November 12th with Zen Master Bon, Stan Lombardo. Oh, we should stop the recording. Yeah, okay.